You're just raising that concern over that revenue at this
Yeah,
point?
we don't want to do anything that affects that billboard lease. I mean, people are begging for us to find non-traditional sources of revenue. You won't find a more non-traditional source of revenue than something like this. And nothing should be done to disturb that.
What if it was sold with the licensing agreement? Transfer that interest to the individual or company that's looking to purchase that parcel.
My concern is the future value of that license agreement. Because if that billboard is there, the license agreement is for 5 years. That billboard is conceivably there for another 10 or 15 years, and unrealized value as a result of that. I don't know what the market would say, but my concern would be losing that revenue source.
Yeah, the real estate taxes to be paid on the unimproved land right now would be far less than the revenue
Far
we're
less,
generating.
right.
You know, we're getting $6,000 a year on this thing, and taxes would be maybe $1,500 based upon the assessed valuation.
If you were to look at the lot itself, is the billboard like in the middle of the lot or on the edge?
A swamp.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the swamp.
It's right in the middle of the swamp.
Middle of the lot, in the middle of the swamp.
There's a picture of it. If you tab in a few pages,
Yeah.
you'll see it's got a picture of a stake and a little smart car.
Yeah, no, I saw that,
Yeah,
but
so
I mean,
it's-
that doesn't tell me where it is in the lot, that's why,
Right in the middle of it.
right in the middle.
Excuse me, if we're producing revenue at $6,000 a year, I
$12,000.
mean, $12,000, I'm sorry, and the tax we would get on this is,
1,500.
1,500, okay? Why would we even consider putting a piece of property like this up for sale?
Someone asked us.
Right. They did what we said they should do.
Someone asked.
Mr. Prisco.
Reading the request, they talk about this, using the reason for acquiring these properties is for added parking. But if it's wetlands, I assume that they're not gonna have authorization to add so I don't wanna tell them they can buy a piece of land that they're not gonna get what they want out of it. It's kind of my concern.
That's, would be Concom. I mean, we look at it because it's gonna be an improvement to the property, but it's gonna be conservation. And wetlands, they don't want, I wouldn't wanna see them filling any of it. We're having a hard enough time when we get the floods.
I mean, all three of them say added parking, so I hate to sell them something they won't be able to do what they're asking for.
We haven't actually, when we saw the big, all the parcels, I looked at all the parcels, gave, what she thought, if we could use them or not, but we didn't, I don't think she saw these individual ones. To actually comment in depth on them, except for wrestling, which she's still trying to find out about. There's some things going on with that.
Is the interested party here? Jim, are you representing them?
Yes, I am. The property owner who is interested in the property is the Joker's Wild Building, which is across Patley Road from the piece of property that we're talking about. He has no interest in owning a billboard, and if you want to separate out the lot so that you can keep the income-producing portion, if it's in wetland, it really doesn't do my client any good. You're probably aware that during the Halloween season, at least, there's quite a demand for parking in this area. My client has had an engineer look at it. There's a possibility he might be able to get a few spaces in there. That's the reason that he wants to buy the major parcel, the 27,000 square feet. The other two parcels, I believe, are the old railroad bed, which I guess it was acquired for non-payment of taxes, but not from the railroad. I think it was Charlie Statuti, or Catherine Statuti, who owned it years and years ago, because Charlie was smart enough to buy everybody's frontage on Main Street, including the frontage to the Joker's Wild. So that piece, and I don't recall which number it was, it's probably 141, is the frontage for the Joker's Wild building. That's the reason we'd like to buy that. It's of absolutely no use to anyone but us, and it would provide us with frontage. The other smaller parcel is just the same strip along the other piece that we'd like to buy. And again, as far as the as far as the billboard is concerned, I don't think from the middle down to the other end would do my client any good anyway, and he's, like I say, not trying to get into the billboard business, but we're just hoping that if he acquires the land, it may be that he could just use it for parking legally because he owns it without improving it, and again, only on a temporary overflow basis. And it's possible that he might be able to actually do something to the surface. We understand that there are conservation restrictions relative to the location of wetlands, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to have a paved parking lot or that we have to do any filling. But it would be of great advantage to him. And from the town's point of view, as long as you keep your billboard, it would seem to me that it makes economic sense, because right now you're getting no tax income from it, and if you can sell the part that doesn't generate any other type of income, get some tax income from it, as well as whatever that piece of land is worth as a sales price, which I don't think it's worth much, because it's certainly not buildable for any purpose in terms of building a building or anything else on it. But my client's in a unique situation where it might be of value to him because he can use it for parking and maybe even be able to improve it for parking.
Jim, there's actually a strip that's in front of the Joker's Wild?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
town-owned?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You have to drive over it to get into his property.
Right.
Right, he does have access, so I've researched the title on these strips, and when the railroad was there, all of the land behind the railroad, and it made sense, you had a railroad across, next to the side of the road, but the railroad strip of land did allow access by all of the property owners to get to Main Street. It just doesn't today make much sense to have a strip of land owned by the town that is the frontage for the property behind it, even in the event that they're able to use it. I've had situations, for example, where someone wants to do something with their property, maybe build an addition or whatever, and that 15-foot strip of land means that their whole setback is 15 feet
Right.
further. As a practical matter, it makes no difference, but you have to go in and get a variance because you're too close to Main Street, whereas if you too close to your side lot line, it becomes a side lot line because it's not a street line. And so you have to get a variance. I don't think it helps the town to own it, and it certainly would help my client.
Is your client prepared to put, engineering drawing together, or how we would use or how we could divide lot 19? Parcel 119?
Well, I suppose, as I say, it's possible he can't do anything to improve it, he might just park on it. If you want to know the location where he might just be parking on it during...
Well, I'm assuming that what you were suggesting, at least that's what I thought you were suggesting, was that we divide it such that...
Oh, I see, yes. Okay, I thought you meant a site plan for purposes of what he's going to do. You mean
No,
just in
just a-
terms of where the lot line would be?
For the
Which
billboard.
piece of the property
What he wants to use, Jim.
Yeah,
he would
yeah,
want to
I
use?
think we could do that.
He already, isn't he already has something there, he
He-
came to us about that before.
He does own, there's a smaller
19.
piece
Does he own 118, right at the other corner of Patley Road?
right on the corner, he owns that one.
He owns that now?
118, I think that one is.
He does own it now, because he
He
didn't own, he
No,
didn't
150.
previously, right? Didn't he used to lease that or rent it?
Yeah, there was something.
Uh,
now.
He's paying taxes on it,
Okay.
so...
But
He
he
doesn't
did,
own it, we don't want to tell him.
no, didn't Jerry Piero own it for a while, and he rented it, someone?
Somebody rented
The little piece on the
But
corner.
the billboard's on 119.
Right.
Who used it?
Doesn't affect- Then doesn't affect 119.
Jerry Piero.
Yeah, okay, but no longer, so Jerry sold it to Mr. Jeffrey? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So he's a direct about it. That was one of my questions. I didn't know that transfer had taken place.
Jeffrey?
Thank you. Just to make sure I understand, he owns 115 and 118, the Joker's Wild?
Excuse me, Ramon.
Yes.
He owns 118, and the Joker's Wild building is on,
115.
is it
115?
115?
115.
Yeah.
So he must use 118 for parking right now.
Yes.
Okay, now, so he wants to buy 140 and 141?
He wants to buy 140 and 141, correct.
That whole strip at this point, that's what's available?
And
Right.
119.
In 119.
And
Well, no, I think-
119.
And 119.
And he
is-
wants 119.
Right, the 140 and 141, and this is a real small assessor's map, I think I got the right numbers here.
You're right.
Are just that 15-foot strip of
Strip, yeah,
land in
it's a
front
strip, yeah,
of
right.
what he already owns, which is 118, and one of the pieces he's asking to own, which is 119.
Can we divide 119?
Well, that's what we're dividing 119, but I think we'd also have to divide 141 into
Right.
three different parcels to go along with the frontage of the, well, or
119.
actually four parcels.
Actually,
If we're gonna, actually four.
Four.
And I think that would be a strong consideration on the board's part if we were to offer this up for sale. If someone were to do the engineering for us and lay it out, such that the four frontage parcels on 141 would be laid out along with subdividing 119. And then what we would do would then offer for sale, what would be 119A, say, along with,
I don't understand why you have to divide 141 into more than
Yeah,
two
I don't
pieces.
either.
well, you've got
But-
frontage for 118, you've got
Oh,
frontage
to
for
understand, because
119,
my client
you've
might
got,
not
be
you got
successful.
frontage for 119, no, not just that, but just so that it would be clear, then they'd have frontage for 119, which would be subdivided at least into two lots,
Right.
and then there's also
Right in front of
120,
20?
which is another business owner on Route 28.
I'm sorry,
And-
my
and-
assessor's
So
map
actually,
stops.
Number one.
So what I'd like to see is, I'd like to see a portion of 141 be available to 120.
It actually
Steve-
extends, Steve,
Jim.
into Lot 1.
Lot 1 as
Oh,
well.
you're right, correct.
Jim, if you
Looks that
wanna
way.
see what he's talking about.
Yeah, so it really covers 5 lots.
So I mean, if we could get this
Yeah.
subdivided to go along the property line so that
Four
everybody
lots then.
who accesses across it can then take ownership of it, it'd be much cleaner and be done with it.
I don't
And
think
as
that
far
would
as
be-
consideration, it's,
The map I had stopped. I thought it stopped at the end of 119. I see what you're talking about. It goes on for two more
South.
lots.
yeah.
I think Mr. Hayden.
Mr. Hayden, Bob. this-
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'm not opposed to the sale of this, but I think you might wanna send it back to us so we can figure out, make sure everybody gets their piece, because if one person owns it, it's different than the old railroad bed. They can stop access to the front of their lot. So you gotta make sure that it's
Right, that's why I wanna,
He's saying-
I wanna perfect everybody's interest.
Mr. O'Leary is absolutely correct in what he's saying, but, you know, we need to, I don't have a map for me, so I can't even look at it.
Right.
We have to research and just get it, we know what we need to do and get it done, so that it gets done right. I'm not opposed to this.
All right. I don't think anyone is. The only issue I see is the billboard and how we work around that.
Well, the
billboard and
way
the
you work
access-
around it is
The access
to,
to it,
The access to the other lots.
and the access to the billboard.
Right.
no, no,
but
I
the-
think
the access across-
what they're saying is that the billboard isn't over here on the section of land that they'd like to use. Right, so if we subdivide this, right, then the
We keep
town will
that.
still own the section
That's fine.
that the billboard is on.
Yep.
And then what Steve has added was that
No, of course.
wherever you divide that, you
Yep.
want this piece of
That I
that lot.
understand.
Okay,
Along with the other
Yeah.
parcels subdivided
I
properly.
think the access to the billboard is closer to lot 120, and as I look at the plan here.
I think so too. It's
Yeah.
more or less just beyond the dark line that goes
I agree with
down,
you.
cuts like diagonally through
Yeah.
119.
But
What I understand you're looking for then basically is to put a line through parcel 119, leaving
break
the
it into two
billboard on
pieces,
one lot,
right.
Right.
and designating what it is that my client would like to purchase. That's step number one. Step number two is on every lot line running perpendicular, more or less, to Main Street, extend it 15 feet through the 15-foot strip and label those as being separate small lots, so that we now have a continuous lot line that's a straight line
Right onto the street.
that at least gives the capacity of getting pieces of land to the people who really should have them.
Right.
Correct.
So if that can be done, and I think the CPC would like to,
So it's 5 sections.
The only thing I would worry about is, as you combine, start getting lots bought next to each other, you start getting sizes for those lots.
that's not a bad